Hey everyone, I am super excited to be here, you guys, for today's topic, which is about increasing sales after you get increased visibility. And I'm really excited to be here. And I just realized I didn't even ask how to say your last name.
I know, I realized that too, and I'm like, she's going to be nervous about it, and she shouldn't be.
Your name.
Yeah, nobody knows how to say my last name. It's totally fine. It's new for me too, because it's a married name.
Right.
So my name is Courtney Chaal. It's pronounced like a shawl that you wear. That's what I keep telling people. Yeah, it's got that like hard CH, but it's actually like a sh. And
so
then the
people
two A's.
ask me last minute, they're like, how do you say your last name? So I really need to up my game.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And I don't take it personally.
Yeah. Chaal, formerly Johnson, is the founder of the Rule Breakers Club, where she teaches women how to package and sell their brilliance. And she's pretty much the only person who can make writing sales pages fun. It involves rainbows and pots of gold, and her work is featured on Inc.com, FastCompany.com, Creative Live, and the Huffington Post. She's from Michigan, started her business in Paris, and currently lives in Vancouver with her new husband, Mohammed.
Yes.
So
I sound interesting.
I know. Sometimes when I hear my bio read, I'm like, that's fun.
I'm like, wow, I sound professional.
Totally. So I'm really excited to have you here today because we've been in like similar online circles for a while, but never ever got to connect or talk. And, you know, when I was thinking about, you know, summer camp this year and upgrading it and bringing in more experts, I really was thinking about, you know, I teach everybody how to become more visible. I bring in all these experts to talk to you guys about, you know, growing your audience and getting in front of more people. But here's the deal. If you can't sell to those people after you get in front of them, it's not going to be that helpful. And I'm not doing you guys any favors. So I wanted to bring Courtney in to talk about selling. And I know that's always, like I said in the email I just sent out, that is something that still can cause me massive anxiety. Like if that was the one task that I could outsource, I would gladly do it. But a lot of times for my services, I still have to talk to people. So it doesn't work well that way. So for you guys who are on and watching, make sure you say hello. Please drop any questions you have. I see there's a bunch of you on.
Remember, like anything about selling is fair game. So like whatever is like your hang up, your frustration, don't feel any shame around it. Like let's like figure it out. Yeah.
And if one of you have it, you know, 100 more of you are going to have it. So anything you could drop in and we could address specifically for you will be, you know, super helpful. But Courtney, just to get started, what do you really wish people knew about selling?
Yeah, I think what you just opened up with is I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of that because so just to give you guys a little bit of background about just a tiny bit of context, I started out as a copywriter and then really niched down into sales page copy. And so sales page copywriting, like Nicole mentioned, is like, I love it. I love making it fun. I love helping you guys who hate it, like figure out how to love it. It's my favorite thing ever. And then I also, like after kind of dominating that sphere, I noticed that where most of my audience was struggling was not just in the sales. Like I think we get so focused on the sales, like I have to make the sale, but that if it's being stressful and it feels hard and it feels like something you want to resist, you're probably doing it wrong. And when I say wrong, I don't mean like your sales script is wrong or like your copy is bad. I mean, like you're focusing too much on like the hard sell and not on the relationship building that like very logically and easily and like no-brainerly leads to the sell. And so for me, selling, I don't like selling either. When you start talking about selling, like, I mean, like I don't get hives, but I feel like if I did, that's when I would get hives. It's like about that. So for me, it's always about like, how can I serve? And I genuinely, truly, honestly, authentically, 100% believe at the core of my being that to have somebody pay me for this service, this course that I do, whatever it is, that is the best way I can serve them. Because when people pay you a fair price for the value you are creating for them, that is, I've heard people say like the transformation is in the transaction. The minute that you make that decision and you put the money down on something that's like maybe a little scary, it feels like, oh my God, I'm doing this. That is where the shift begins to happen. And so if you're not charging fair money and you're not selling. In other words, you're not offering people opportunities to pay you for your work, you're actually doing them a disservice. And it's actually kind of egotistical and selfish not to do it. And that's the reframe I like to challenge people with, because everyone's like, oh, selling is selfish. I'm like, not selling is selfish. So let's play with that, because that's where we can start to make it fun and juicier.
Absolutely. And I do think, honestly, it's so important to really allow people to invest in themselves too, and invest in whatever the transfer.
Love that. Allow them to invest, because sometimes we block. We're like, they don't have enough money, I'm stealing from them. It's like, you're not allowing them to invest in themselves. They want to, and you're like telling them they can't. Like, what a crazy thing to do, but we do it all the time.
And I mean, I think too, you know, we make it really complicated for them. Like, I was just talking to one of my clients, and, you know, she definitely has a little bit of a sales block in terms of, like, she's really great. She gets lots of leads on the call. But then when it comes to, and they're like, yes, I want to work with you. And then it makes them go through like a maze where it's like, this like 10-page info form. And then, you know, they'll get the payment link. And it's like, no.
And it's like hidden, like with heart emojis all around it. And like, and it's like, we give people this obstacle course, like, okay, you're ready to buy my thing, here's an obstacle course, like American Ninja Warrior, that you need to accomplish in order to, we do that all the time, because it's really just, I don't believe anything that you're stuck with is ever a strategy problem. I think it's always a mindset problem that manifests as a strategy problem. And I'm more than happy to talk about strategy. I love strategy, but the strategy is easy. It's just like, do this. Why you're not doing it is because you have a mindset problem. Why you're not finding the strategy is because you have a mindset problem. And that mindset problem is really feeling bad about asking people for money, not feeling like you deserve to be paid that. Because when you feel like selling a service, you book them on the call. You say, okay, here's the invoice. When you pay it on the call, you'll be booked. Like, let's get this done. I want to get you booked in. Like, let's get you on the calendar. Like, no, there's no, like, I love that you mentioned that, because I often forget about that. Like, we make it so hard for people to actually pay us.
Complicated. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, I'm really big on being like, hey, you know, here's your link to pay, you know, please pay in the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
You know, I do that personally. It actually started out to manage my own anxiety, because I was like, you know, in the beginning I was like stressed and, you know, needed money and wanted to make sure I didn't lose people, and didn't, you know, want to not ever follow up with them. So I actually did it for myself, to be like, okay, if I give this sort of, you know, boundary, then I'll know how I can follow up. I'll know that everything's clear. And a lot of people don't actually do that. They'll just be like, here's the link whenever. And then it's a week later, they're like, I haven't seen it. I'm like, well, did you see when they needed to sign up by? And I know even for myself, if somebody gives me a link to pay without like, hey, pay by this date, it's not even like, I want the service. But
I do this with my team. They'll send me an invoice, and sometimes I'm just disorganized. Like, and I feel terrible. Like, if I'm often that person, but I'm never bothered by being reminded. I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank you so much for reminding me, because
that's my exact words. I'm like, thank God, please remind me again. So I'm glad you know, I think that's an also important piece too, is just like, how are you, you know, blocking people from actually paying you, or you know, feeding into their anxiety about it by not giving them clear parameters about it.
Yeah. I'd love to hear it. So for those of you who are listening, whether it's live or on the replay, if you could just brainstorm, what is one way you think you might be making it hard for people to pay you? Just, even if you don't think there's anything, like, just try to come up with something, just even if it's silly. I love the idea of having that boundary. I would always tell people, your booking isn't finalized until you make this payment. And I'll hold the spot for 48 hours. So like, that's basically, it's just a boundary on like, look, I can't just keep this spot open. And look, even if I didn't have a ton of leads, they don't need to know that. Like, that's for your own self-respect.
If you're keeping like random spots open, it does kind of block you from getting more people, because you think you have more people than you do. You're like, oh, I have pending. I think it makes you sort of like then restrict your space.
It's not your money until it's your money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is, and I see you guys are dropping questions, which is awesome. So I'm going to read into them a little bit later, but what's the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make when it comes to sales?
There's so many. I think we've kind of touched on like the biggest one is avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest one is, I'm going to go back and dig a little deeper on what I mentioned previously, which is making sales all about this hard sell where you have to have this script and you have to convince people and you have to like get on the call and be like, I'm going to close this client. Even like those of us, and I'm sure your audience are not like really like hard selling, like sleazy people. They're often like really caring, loving, giving people who, but when we get into sales mode, we don't know how to do it without doing that stuff because we've never seen it done differently. And I think the shift there, like I said, is about not viewing it as a thing you have to, like, I've got to sell this person. By the time somebody is on your sales page, if it's a course or a product, even on your work with me page, I'm going to be honest, if it's a service, but definitely by the time you're having like a sales call with someone, if you do that, like I'm just trying to name like a few different ways that selling happens for online business owners, then they should already be like 90% sold. So that happens so you're talking a lot with people about like building their audience. So there's building your audience, which is what I call attracting. So basically like, I'm going to attract people into my sphere. The next step is not selling. The next step is what I call amazing. You need to amaze people. You need to build a relationship with them. It's like if you went to, let's say you're trying to like, I'm going to relate it to dating, which is like the best analogy for everything basically. But if you go to a bar and you meet someone that you like, wow, I'd really like to like go out with this person, and you get their number and then you ask them to move in with you. Like, what? And that's what happens when we see like people just going for sales all the time or never. And all they focus on is audience building. And in my course where I teach service providers how to create signature services and book them out consistently, I have a handful of entrepreneurs who have massive Instagram followings and no money. Like, and so my thing is like, great, you have an audience. That's awesome. We now need to nurture that audience to build that know, like, and trust factor. Make sure that they know what you're the go-to person for. They feel like they have a connection with you. They like your brand. They can see that you know what you're talking about. And then you make a sale. And when I say make a sale, and then you offer them something. But if it's just like, I have an audience, now I got to sell to them, like you're missing the relationship, which is the most important piece.
Yeah. You definitely do want to absolutely like continue to nurture them. And I see that with a lot of people too, where, they start to grow a mailing list and then they never email them, or like they email them like one newsletter a month that's like crammed with 30 things. And then when they do,
that's like, they don't even remember who you are at that point. Like, why am I on this?
And then when they do come in a sell and it's like, well, you have to send out like 5 to 7 emails over a week. They're like, what? And I'm like, you're being touched more frequently with your audience. It's so funny because it's like you're so afraid of being salesy, but somehow I think it does end up manifesting in that you show up in a salesy way.
Yes, 100%. The most salesy, sleazy salespeople are spiritual entrepreneurs. People who are the most resistant to selling. They end up, when they sell, they sound so creepy and pushy. They add all this language on their sales page that's like, who is this? Because they're so uncomfortable, because they have all these hangups about selling, and then they realize they have to do it. So the only way they know how to do it is with this weird stuff. And so their potential clients are like, this is off brand. And absolutely 100%, you're selling all the time, not just in business, in your life. So we need to remove this hang up about selling. It's all about helping to show people how you can help them, believing in what you do. That's a big piece of it. If you don't believe in what you do, if you're out of alignment with the work that you're doing, and what I mean by the out of alignment, because people throw that term around a lot, is like, you don't believe the work that you're doing is going to help the person, or that you can provide a result, you're going to feel really bad selling because you feel like a fraud. And so these are the mindset blocks I'm talking about. And we're covering like a lot of ground here on these questions. But it really is about that, because selling is just about sharing how you can help people and getting them to a place where they're ready to work with you, ready to invest in your course, whatever it is that you're offering.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the mistakes that people have been throwing out is Erin says she needs to be better about asking them to make their payment right on the call. So let me ask you, do you feel
Yeah.
people need to make their payments right on the call?
No, that's one way of doing it. That's sort of like the most extreme. I mean, extreme's not a good word, but it's sort of the most like, hey, like, let's get it booked right now kind of way. You don't have to do it on the call. I never did actually do the payment on the call. I've now invested in many things where they've had me make the payment on the call. And oftentimes it's like, if you book right now on the call, you get this deal. And if you don't, then you get this other deal. So like it's incentivized. That can get a little bit convoluted, and I don't want people to get overwhelmed and overcomplicate things. What we're really talking about here is not so much selling as we are boundaries.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that.
With this question, Erin, you may just mean like, I'm not even sure if you mean make it right on the call, like give you the number over the call, the credit card number over the call, or maybe like, I need you to make the payment in the next 24 hours.
Or just like getting a verbal commitment. So what I do on sales calls is, and what I used to do, because I don't really do the services anymore. So I don't do sales calls like for my course, but what I would do is I would tell the person up front, like, okay, so like we're going to have, it's a little chat. We're just having, I call them sales chats, because it's just like, we're going to chat. We're going to see if this is a good fit for you. I'm going to see if you're a good fit for me. So what I do is I tell them like, I want to go over what the process, the service will look like. I want to answer any questions that you have. And then if you do want to book, we'll talk about how to take action to do that as well. Does that sound good? And they're like, yeah, sounds great. So then I say, okay, why don't I just walk through exactly what this service looks like? By the way, that's always on my sales page. So this is not the first time they're hearing about this. I'm just verbally going over it with them. Okay, so as you know, like it's this and that. We go over the service real quick, not in a ton of detail, but just like these are the steps. What questions can I answer for you? And so then they'll come up with some of their hesitations. That's where you have an opportunity to listen and to say, okay, yeah, like here's how I handle that. Here's how we do this. Like, what a great question. If you don't have the answer, you say, great question. Let me get back to you on that. Never make decisions about how you're going to handle something while you're on a sales call, because you'll always overpromise and like back down on your boundaries. So always say like, you know what, I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me get back to you. So answer their questions. And then, all right, so do you want to move ahead? Would you like to get started? If they say, no, I'd like to think about it, then you have a response for that. Like you need to plan for all these. It's basically a flow chart, right? Like if they say this, you say that. If you, and it's not super complex. It's just like, if they say no, not right now, I say, that's totally fine. Do you mind me asking why? And then, because it's always good to understand, like if they got through this far in the process and then they're like, no, like what's going on? Yeah. And if yes, which will be most of the time, if you're doing it this way, you say, okay, so here's what we're going to do. And for my process, it was always like, we're going to look at the dates we're going to book you in. This is the dates. I would ask for very specific commitments for people. So that's all boundaries. Like, here's the date I need this from you. If I don't get this from you, you do forfeit your spot. So like, this has to be in on this date. Can we confirm that? Yes, we put it on the calendar. I said, great. So I've tentatively booked all this in. I'm going to send you 3 things. I'm going to send you our contract. I'm going to send you an invoice, and I'm going to send you an onboarding email. And so I just need you to take action on those 3 things. And once you have, you will be booked, and I can hold it for 48 hours. And they say, okay, sounds great. So what I've done there is I've just told them exactly what to expect.
Right.
And they love it. They love it. And it's 3 things, 1, 2, 3, here you go. And then they make their payment and then it's done. So that's how I handled it. I thought it'd be good to just do like an overview of that, because it's so chill. It's so relaxed, and 0 parts of this am I trying to convince them of anything. I'm just sharing with them what I do and telling them how to get started if they want to.
And that's what I think is really important. And I think too, at the beginning, I think we're just like, and I say more at the beginning, but when you're earlier in your sales experience, before you kind of develop your own process that feels good to you, I just think we're so nervous that we like try to keep details away. Like, oh, we're going to confuse them or overcomplicate it. And instead, like the other person is just unclear how everything's going. And they're like, you need to pay a certain amount of money. And I have like no clue. When am I ever going to hear from you again, or when we're going to get scheduled. So it is good to just be really have that simple like process, those steps, and don't like have 10 steps, just have like 3.
Right. That's important. Like I need 3 things. And for me, I had so many of these sales calls, like this became like, I mean, it was just like, I still remember it. I'm still literally telling you word for word what I said during a call. I haven't done these in 2.5 years. So
yeah. One of my old clients is on and she's saying we had this conversation when I completely bought my first yes, because she did that. She kind of was like got her yes and then was like so nervous it was going to change. She like didn't send anything.
Yeah.
You know,
so whatever you think is going to happen, you'll just manifest. And I don't mean that in a woo-woo way, even. I just mean that in a logic way. Like if you're, oh my God, the client's going to change their mind. What you'll do is you'll end up taking actions to prove that thought true. It'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, yeah, that's an important realization to have. Yeah, it's a self-sabotage. Sure. Yeah.
So Joseph said he tends to be afraid to tell new customers his actual fee because he wants to help them. So he'll undercharge.
So Joseph, super common, Joseph. What that means is you have a big heart and you want to help people. It also means that you're not valuing the fact that they need to pay the money to get the results. So there's some exploring I would do around that fear. But what I will say is one way I got around this 100% is by putting my fees on my sales page. And when you have a really good sales page, there's no reason not to put the fee because the sales page sells the thing and you don't need to give it on the call. And that is really how I kind of wiggled my way out of that problem, because I don't love telling people the price on the call either. I like that they already know it. And the only reason they're on a call with me is that they already saw the price and they're okay with it. Like I love that because I didn't have to worry about it.
I mean, I have my prices on my pages now too. And it's funny because like when my services were more affordable in the beginning, I didn't have them. Like when they were, when I first started out, they were different, they were lower. I didn't have them on there.
I always hate when service providers do that. So I decided I wasn't going to do that to my clients.
Yeah.
Because I don't request calls with people if I don't know the pricing, because I don't want to waste my time.
And I will say too, like a lot of times people get on calls and they haven't looked it over closely. Like it's on there and they haven't even seen it. So it still happens, but I feel better like knowing that it's out there. There was an opportunity for them to get it, and I think it is like, just go with whatever feels good for you. When I started out, I felt better not having the price on there because I wanted I thought it would block calls and I wanted as many calls as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like do it feels comfortable for you, but like anything can work as long as you're doing it.
Right. And for you guys who are on, let us know. Are you selling services? Are you selling courses? What are you selling? So Bethany says she sells physical products and has to get on the phone with retail buyers. How can she overcome their rejections?
Ooh, juicy. How can you overcome their rejections? So,
and then here's how I and have examples of some of the things they.
I want to approach this from like any sales call. I think this is applicable situation. If you are getting on a call with a feeling like I've got to get this, I've got to make this happen, I got to close this client, I got to get this deal, or else ... like wrong way to do it. Flat out. Wrong way to do it. And I realized I was doing this with my sales calls originally because I was getting so nervous to get on calls and I was so disappointed for the people who said no. And I was like, what's happening there? What was happening is once someone was inquiring to work with me, or in this case, Bethany, correct? Bethany, you might feel like when I'm calling, I'm already considering that I need this deal. I already have, I need this. Because you've already kind of considered it your money or your deal, you have an attachment to it. So because you have that emotional attachment to it, if they say no, it feels like a loss. Right. Does that make sense? So when I had a client who I'm like, oh, a new client perspective, that's $1,000 for me. No, it's not. They're not sold. That money is not my money until it is in my bank account, my friend. Right. That I stopped doing that. And I started considering no clients sold. So it wasn't even like a half and half. It was like, they're not sold until they're sold and they probably won't be sold. I literally did a very stoic approach, which was like, this client's not going to want to work with me, but I'm just going to share my service with them anyway. And then when they did say yes, I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Right. So in this case, Bethany, you need to consider when you call, they're going to say no, but I'm going to offer it anyway. And then when they say yes, you're more excited versus your expectation right now is that they will say yes. And so when they say no, it feels like a loss versus a gain.
Right. Right. And that feeling of rejection.
Yep. Yep. And also what I'll tell you, Bethany, is like the more you do it, the more you'll become immune to that and it won't feel so harsh. It's just, some of that's just like a game of numbers and just exposure therapy.
And I really do think, that is so hard too for like even my business, because I do cycles, I do more launch cycles. It just works better for me. I don't sell consistently like every month. And it's hard, or it's good when it's good, but like it's hard to get back into it because it's been a while since I've sold. And I'm like, oh my God, am I ever going to be able to sell again? Is anybody ever going to be able to buy from me too? So just be aware of, and part of me now can say like, oh, that's just a pattern, true. But, you have to just kind of be aware of your thought process around it and how you're viewing.
And don't take it personally. If you have a launch that doesn't go well, or a call where someone says no, or you don't hit your revenue goal, it's like we do this thing. We're like, oh, I suck. I'm not worthy. It's a waste of time. It doesn't mean that. It's so self-indulgent to do that. And I'm using that. I'm not saying I don't do it, but I've reframed it as self-indulgent because then it makes me not do it. It's just about looking at, okay, what did I do? What could I do differently? What could I learn from this? Like, how can I improve my strategy and get curious about it versus like falling into this spirally doom situation. Yeah.
And I would say to you, Bethany, like for you, like, why are they saying no right now? It's the same thing like Courtney was saying before, ask them what's going on. It may just be a no right now. It may be like,
why can I just, do you mind me asking like, what would make it a yes, just so in the future I can learn from this process. And they might be like, no, we don't know. They might not tell you, and they might. Like, it's just worth asking the question.
Right. And it may be even a situation where it's like, oh, we just took on a new product. We are not going to have any openings for 3 months or something.
It's not about you.
It's really not about you. And there may be opportunities for follow-up too that you're missing out on because of the rejection feeling. So speaking of, just different products, and there's people selling a bunch of different things. How is selling one-to-one services similar or different to selling courses?
Yeah, because I do a lot of both. So I teach service providers and I also teach sales page copy. So one-to-one is 100 bajillions% based on relationships, because if you are, number one, it's a higher price. They're paying more. So it just creates more of that need to know, like, and trust factor. The second thing is they are going to be working in close capacity with you in some way. So if I'm writing your sales page copy, like I am physically doing a done for you service that is going to be like communicating the voice of your brand. Like, you need to know, like, and trust me. You need to like what I do. You need to, that's a more intimate, more involved relationship. So in one-to-one services are 90% or more going to be based on referrals. And so growing your audience is awesome, but I'm going to tell you with one-to-one services, networking, relationships, make a list of 50 people you already know who like could potentially be good clients for you, nurture those relationships. The story I always use about this is like, I have a list of like thousands of people, and there's people who will take like months of years to eventually enroll in my course, because it's like slowly building that relationship online over time. And then I went to an event and I met a woman. I talked to her for 2 minutes. And she happened to say like, oh, my goal is I need to get more clients. I was like, that's what I do. I have a course on that. Like, I'd love to tell you more about it. Here's the information. Enroll in my course the next week. But it's just, there's something very subconscious and psychological in humans about close proximity and being in person that online just does not overcome. And online is amazing. And I have a completely online course-based business, but I'm going to tell you, like, the most recent person who enrolled in my course is someone I met locally. And I just told her, like, hey, you need this happened this week. I was like, you need my course. And she goes, okay, send me the link. Enrolled that day. That just does not happen when I send email marketing and Instagram posts. And it just does not happen that way. So this is why I'm such an advocate. If you're not making a full-time income yet from your business, one-to-one services, fastest, easiest way to start making money, as you do exactly what Nicole has created, this amazing summit to help you build an audience, do all that. That's going to help you to create the longevity of a business that will no longer require one-on-one services if you don't need it. But you can't come out of the gate with like a course. Like, you just can't do it.
Yeah. And, in particular, I particularly specialize in helping service providers scale to multiple income streams. And I think a lot of times they're surprised when they come on and we actually like get them building relationships, even though they're already making money, there's a lot of sometimes holes in their foundation that are going to make it harder to scale, and even I myself, I have to constantly like go back to,
and it's because it's lowest hanging fruit. Like, if you need money now, you got to go with what's the juiciest, ripest fruit right now. And it's going to be people who already know, like, and trust you. So those are where the opportunities lie. It's with past clients and customers. It's how can you upsell them? How can you get repeat business? How can you, how can you offer something for them? Because they're already bought in on what you're doing.
Yeah. Right. And those, relationships and the people you're meeting, that could feed every income stream too, which is good.
1,000,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. So what can entrepreneurs do to get really good at writing their own sales copy?
Yeah, because we talked a lot about like relationship building and one-on-one sales calls and stuff, which is all very applicable to copywriting. It's just like the in-person, in the flesh version of it. I say you have to get good at that first, because you got to figure out like what it's like in real life. And then with copywriting, what can you do to get good at copywriting? Number one, get good at really just being comfortable accepting money for what you do without copywriting. Like, number one, because like that's going to inform and is the basis for everything. Number two, is you need to get really clear on what is the core result that you create for people and the core problem that you solve. So I teach something called the rainbow of sales. And in the rainbow of sales, it's like really just this like graphic of there's a cloud and there's a pot of gold and there's a rainbow connecting. So the cloud and the pot of gold are on each end of the rainbow. So the cloud is the problem. Like, this represents where your target clients, I like to call them your muses, like where are your muses right now? What is that problem that they want solved? And then the pot of gold is where they want to be. So right now they're on the cloud and they're like, I'm so frustrated about this, but I want to be there. And so that gold is like, what's the result or outcome of whatever it is you do, whether it's a service or a course, like it doesn't matter. You need to be extra clear about it with a course. So because you got to find language around it. And then you need to find the language that your target client or your muse is using to express their frustration and their desires. And you need to use that language in your copy. I think way too many entrepreneurs, they're trying to like think it up in their own heads. They're working way too hard and they're getting a worse result. Like, it's such a waste of time. So like, let your audience tell you what their frustrations are and then repeat that language back to them in your copy. And then the third thing I'll say is, after you've kind of gathered that, and that's a lifelong process, right? Of like fine tuning your messaging and getting to know what the pain points and the desires are of your target clients and customers. The final thing is like, get a formula or a framework or a template. Like, if you're not a copywriter and you haven't been studying this stuff for years, you're not going to magically write copy that's going to sell.
Right.
There's very specific reasons why psychologically you need to address A, B, and C on a sales page, in order that if you're just like, I don't want to sound salesy, so I'm going to write it myself, you're ending up going to sound salesy, be confusing, and not make any sales.
Yeah.
And like we already mentioned, so let it be easy. Find a template, a framework. Like, I teach this stuff. Like, find someone, like you said in my bio, like I love making it fun
too, right? Which I linked to in the description of this. So
yes,
Courtney does have a free masterclass that you guys could get access to on 5 must-have copywriting formulas that will double your sales.
Yep.
At Rule Breakers Club / copy hyphen templates, and it's right in the link is right in the description of this. So make sure you guys grab that, because those are the best, most easiest things. Like, and
like steal my templates. Like I already made them for you.
Just it's okay.
They're free.
Do not create, like start from scratch. Always
learn the rules before you break them. Like my business is called the Rule Breakers Club. I love being rebellious and creative, but like you got to learn the structure before you create your own way. You got to figure out like why people are doing it this way first. Right. Yeah.
And I think that's like so important, is that, you know, you have to talk to people. And I always say that's like the biggest mistake I made when I launched my business, is like, I don't know, I was so uncomfortable at the idea of like talking to people and like testing out my ideas. But I didn't talk to anyone. And then like no one bought what I sold in the beginning.
Yep. And then we create things out of our own minds.
Right.
And I did the exact same thing. I was too scared to talk to people. It's so weird, but like we all do this. I don't
want anybody to tell me like I'm wrong.
They don't want the thing I want to do, but like you creating an offer is not about what you want to do. It's what other people want. And if you're making it about what you want to do, you can learn that the easy way or the hard way. We're telling you the easy way, stop doing it.
Right.
Or the hard way, launch it and don't make sales, and then you'll figure it out.
So it's definitely not avoidable to talk to people. Another thing that my clients probably hate me for, but I'm like, sorry, don't make my
mine too. Oh, mine too. Module 1 of my course is send a survey, get on coffee chats, interview people. Like they're like, oh my God. I'm like, first thing you got to do. First thing. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the sales page too, when we are working on it, what does it have to have?
Yeah. So I teach a 14-part sales page. I know that sounds like a lot, but if you've ever seen a long form sales page for a course, like they are long, and it's because you have to address all these things in order to A, make someone desire your course, and B, get them to purchase it. So I see that as the first half of your sales page is not just stirring the desire, because by the time someone's on your sales page, you already have that relationship with them. They already desire what you're doing, but specifically being like, I need this course. And then the second half of your sales page is the sections are all about like, let's seal the deal. Right. And so the first half is addressing the rainbow of sales. Now I talk about that in more detail at that free masterclass. So that's a good place to kind of see like, okay, how do you put the rainbow of sales on your sales page?
Right.
But essentially you've got to like address like, is this the problem that you have, and kind of go into that and have them resonating with that. And it's really just empathy. Like, I see that you're frustrated with this. It's just flexing your empathy muscle.
Right.
And then like, okay, and is this the result that you want? Like, is this what you would like? And then you present the rainbow, which I didn't mention earlier. The rainbow is your offer. It's the bridge that's helping them to get from where they are right now to where they want to be. So and then it's just presenting like, okay, here's what I've created for you to help you to get from where you are right now to where you want to go. And like outlining, you know, here's how the course is delivered. Here's what's included. Here's how each of these modules is going to help you walk across that rainbow bridge and like give you the value that you need to get the result. And then the second half of the sales page is like calls to action, refund policy, overcoming objections, FAQs, like all those things that are like, you already want this, but like something's stopping you. You need to decide whether it's yes or no, like now.
And I mean, I always feel like the two biggest objections are time and money. Are there any other big ones you see?
Yeah, I don't believe that money is a real objection. I think it's a facade for a different objection. So whenever and it's the 90% of people are going to say it's money, and you're going to get so infuriated if you tell them it's not. They'll be like, yes, it is. Right. The fact of the matter is they don't see the ROI on what you're offering. And and I'm not saying there's not cases where like they physically don't have the money, but I invested in a $2,000 course when I had $500 to my name because I saw the value in the course. You can judge me for that decision or not. I did it in 2012 and now I have a successful business. So I'm not mad about it. I invested in a $15,000 coaching program last year that was very much outside of anything I had ever done. Just finished that up and I feel great about it.
Right.
So the money is about, they see the ROI and have you, the language people use in sales is like, have you agitated the problem enough, which sounds so terrible. Right. I hate that. I gotta find, but it really is like, is the problem persistent enough and big enough and frustrating enough that they're willing to find the money? Because when I'm teaching you in my course to make $2,000 a month and you're not willing to spend $1,000 right now to make $2,000 a month, there's a disconnect there. Like, you don't want it enough. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't have the money now. Like, go get a part-time job at Starbucks and make, if this is important enough to you, you will find the money. Go babysit for someone, go sell something. And like, people will say, like, I don't want to do that. Well, then you don't want the thing, like, enough. And that's just point blank. And so just really making sure that you're being clear on that in all of your language. I just kind of went off on a tangent there. So I gotta reel it back in.
But I think that is really important though, because, you know, truthfully, you want to really bring in the people who are ready to solve their problems.
Yes.
When you're really pointing out, like, this is what you're struggling with. And, you know, I know that, you know, a lot of the people in this group are heart-centered, are service providers.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable to do that. But the reality is, you know, we can't help them without fixing that problem.
Exactly. It's uncomfortable because you think you're hurting them by taking their money, and you're hurting them by not taking their money. And that is the shift you have to make. Mm-hmm. And I would just write that down and remind yourself of it. And that was huge for me because I always wanted to be like, I want to be affordable. Screw being affordable. Affordable means that your price isn't big enough to cause a shift in their psychology. Right. It is not of service to people to be affordable. It's about value. It's about how important is this problem to people. And that's where your pricing should come from.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any big like sales page mistakes that people make, or common sales page mistakes?
Yeah. Like, really, in a technical scheme, it's just about not getting enough into the target customer's psychology and using like industry language and lingo and forgetting that they don't care about that. So I call that selling the rainbow. So when we look at the rainbow of sales, the language you need to be using is all about that cloud and all about that gold. And like, yeah, the mechanics are like, here's my method for helping you do that. But if you get into like your industry language, your like professional language about what you do, like I could use all kinds of sales and copywriting lingo. I don't speak that language. And that's important to me. It's like, I want to speak the language of the people where they are right now. And that makes me accessible. You sell the rainbow, and then they don't want the how, they want the goal. They want what's this tool going to help me to achieve? So if you're selling the tool or the method, you're doing it wrong. You need to sell the result, the resolution of the problem and the achievement of the result. So that's a big mistake. And then from like just like a writing standpoint, you need to forget academic writing 100%, and write like you speak, but speak your client's language at the same time. That's a whole nother topic, which would take a whole nother interview. And then just make sure your sales page is scannable. So it has headlines, bullet points. It's visually easy to scan because people are just going to scroll up and down, and like in 5 seconds, they're going to decide if your text is overwhelming. And so short sentences, paragraphs of no more than 2 sentences, maybe 3. I know we learned in school, it's not a paragraph unless it's 3. On a sales page, it's too much if it's 3 or more. So really scannable text. Pay attention to like the user experience online, not like a textbook of paragraphs of all the stuff that you do. Yeah.
And I think you just knowing a lot of people who are in this group are people who are service providers, who are really trained in like what they do. Remember, you're not talking to your peers. Like, you're not talking to another dietitian. Like, you don't need to talk about your certifications, your trainings, things like that. Like, maybe there's a couple lines that in your bio, but
in bio. Yeah. Right.
Of the process at all. Like,
yeah, like, don't talk to me about macronutrients. Don't say that. Right. Yeah. You gotta, I mean, I know this is like people hate when I say this, but you gotta dumb it down. Yeah. Like, we're not there. This is not the language I understand. This is not how I'm thinking about this problem. And you need to talk to me in the way that I'm thinking about the problem, because that's what's bothering me. That's my agitation. So if you're talking about it in this like big way, or like you're trying to sell me on a result I don't want, then I'm not going to pay you for it.
Yeah. We were just talking about messaging in my group program yesterday. And I was like, you want a 10-year-old to be able to understand it. You want to be able to read it and know what you're going to do and like what's going to happen.
Yeah. Like I help people make money on the internet. Ooh, like,
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to, you know, that people are not going to even understand the terms on there. They really, it shouldn't look like a medical journal or anything.
God, no, who reads those?
So I'm going to go back, you guys, and come make sure we catch your questions. So please keep dropping them in.
Yes, I love questions. So please give us more questions.
So Diana says, I have a hard time packaging my offerings, so the sale was a one-time deal instead of having to continuously come back. And
this is my specialty. Yeah.
While sales are in everything, I don't think it should have to be all the time. Would love some help figuring out the best way to set up a sale.
Yeah. So, Diana, correct?
Yeah, Diana.
Diana, is this for services?
Yes.
Okay. So services.
Therapy sessions alongside health testing.
Okay. So number one for all service providers, you've got to stop customizing proposals and packages. 100%. If you're doing that, you're just hemorrhaging energy and time and eventually essentially money. So I'm all about like, we don't do that. Real businesses don't do that. They have services and this is the price. So I think part of that is figuring out what are the needs of the clients. And that comes down to what is the problem and what is the result. So I think this is really interesting in terms of like health and wellness services. I'm going to a new chiropractor right now. And the reason why I really like this chiropractor is because they're selling me in the same way that I teach people to sell. And most people in industries like that, they just follow industry norms. Mm-hmm. And industry norms are stupid. Like nobody wants that. It's just how it is. Mm-hmm. So instead of it being like you come for initial consultation and then it's like they come in, they talk about your goals, they have packages, like this is what we do for people with your situation to help you to achieve this result. Like I feel like they're way more professional because they've designed a solution for the result, not just like come in for an indeterminate amount of weekly consultations. We'll see what happens. Like that is very for me. So I feel like it's about designing a package based on getting someone a result. And you don't have to promise the result, but you have to say like, this package is designed to help you get as close to this result as possible. And here's why it's set up this way and why it works. And then you can always have like monthly maintenance stuff on top of that for people, but it's sort of having like this core signature solution of like, this is how we solve this problem for people in your situation. I know a life coach who her whole thing is she specializes in, you only need one session. She thinks it's ridiculous that life coaches need multiple sessions. And I love this. It's so ballsy. She's just like, I just do one session. There's no problem. We can't hammer out in one session. And so, wow, cool. That's her signature offer. Right. So I think it's about figuring out what do people need and figuring out where do you feel like you need to customize it and try to fit it into a framework. So like you can make little tweaks for people's unique situations, but generally it's like, this is the process. Like this is what everybody needs to do.
Right. I was just saying to one of my clients, like, cause she was nervous about like following a framework and like following modules. And I said, I have my framework, but I apply it to each client. I don't make the client fit into the framework.
Yeah.
Like, adjust the framework to fit each client.
And like the sales page framework is a great example. I've done sales pages. Like I've literally at this point, probably hundreds of people have used the sales page kit or worked with me to write sales pages using the same formula. Not a single one of them looks remotely alike.
Right.
Yeah. It's about the strategy, not the details. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you can be creative in terms of, that finding your system and how it applies to people, but, not recreating that system every single time.
Yep. It's more about the process, not like it's going to look exactly the same for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Erin says, the biggest obstacle to people being ready to hire her is to build a sales funnel for them, not knowing what their customer journey looks like live, because you can't automate something that you have not done live. Okay,
so you just need to make it a requirement for you. Like, so whenever I had sales page. So my service was called Sales Page CPR, and this is so similar. So I'm going to use this as an example. You had to have launched before to come to my service, because I wanted people who understood the power of a sales page, but we're not also at the same time, not thinking like, if I have a great sales page, that's all I need. Like I needed people with experience, just for the same reasons you're saying for this service. So and I teach this in my course, like you need to have 3 requirements, like must have requirements for every client that comes to you. So mine were, I like them, they've launched before, and I can't remember the third off the top of my head, but I had these 3 requirements. So, and they were willing to follow my program. They were not like, I need that. No, you're doing what I say. That's it. So I'm the boundary queen. So I'm a little intense about my boundaries, but it works so well for me. So I just think it would be beneficial to everybody to do this. So 3 requirements. If you came to me and you had not launched before, and you felt really green to me and you weren't ready, I didn't take you on as a client. Like, it's as simple as that. And that comes down to an abundance mentality. If you're afraid to say no to someone, which is where I'm assuming this might be coming from, being afraid to say no to these clients, it's because you think you have to take them on to make the money. So what I would do is I would say, I don't think you're ready yet, but I created a product to help them to get ready. So like maybe create a way to like help prepare those people to be ready for you, so you don't lose them out, as obviously they know, like, and trust you, but yeah, like, don't be afraid to say no to people who aren't a good fit for your services. That's part of this.
Yeah. And I think it is a really good idea, at least, like, and it's not like you have to like put it out there anywhere, although you absolutely could put it there so people know and are.
Yeah. I didn't tell them like, I have to like you. Like, that would be really scary, but I had to like them. It was, for me, that was a requirement.
It's important to know, like, what do these people need to minimally have in place in order for me to help them? Because otherwise what happens is you take on people who don't fit it, and then you start to not feel confident about your skills. Programs, because people aren't right.
And then they take up the space of somebody who is ready, and they end up taking more time and energy from you. So it's just a bad idea all around.
Right.
Yeah.
So Brandon has a good like kind of question. So he said he's just starting out doing copywriting and content marketing, and he's having a hard time getting past the idea that he doesn't have any experience or testimonials, but he has experience writing and has taken training and courses in copywriting. So he doesn't
Brandon,
what his rates should be, or if he should even charge.
And this is Brandon. Sorry, I just want to get people's names right. Okay. Brandon, you are me. I was you. I started my copywriting business after like graduating from college, and I have a French degree, and I had experience writing. I worked as a writing consultant at my university, but I was like, well, I don't have like testimonials and stuff. So people get into this testimonial catch-22 when they start, and they're like, how do I get experience without testimonials? And I can't get testimonials without experience. And I'm like, every single business owner on the planet has overcome this. So that means there's a solution. So we have to stop thinking like it's a problem, because it's not a problem. It's just, how do you do it? Beta clients. So what I teach inside of Yay for Clients, which is my program, is exactly this. You need to build confidence, and confidence comes from experience. And so you need to do what you need to do to get experience and build your portfolio and get testimonials. So you need to work with 3 people, probably for free. That's what I did. That's what I recommend for most people, unless you have an established business. Because by working with people for free, you eliminate that whole money issue that you're having. You get experience building your confidence, and you get those testimonials, and those people potentially and likely will refer you to people who will pay for free. So taking beta clients, you've got to do it very strategically by setting really clear boundaries, expectations, etc. You don't just work for people for free. You don't do barters. It's not no barters. None of that crap. We're doing very strategic beta testing to build our confidence. And so that's how you get out of this catch-22.
Right. And, set boundaries around, like you said, around that service, like know exactly what they're getting.
Get them to sign off on like what their expectation, like if you're like, I need them to do X, you need to explain that to them and actually have them like written agree to that. so you can hold them to it because they're not spending money. So you don't have that effect of skin in the game. So, and also don't work with your friends and family. I always forget that. And people end up being like, I want my sister. No, no. You can work with acquaintances. That's fine. Work with people in your current network. But like, when I did a friend, like a friend who wasn't really a close friend anymore. I did it with my, boss at the time. And I did it with someone I kind of met online who I thought would be an ideal client. And the friend was not an ideal client. The boss, not an ideal client, but I'm about to give the middle finger. The person I met online who I thought was an ideal client ended up being the person who then referred me. And like, I got my business started that way. Yeah.
So, there's just so many opportunities out there to connect with potential clients and test things out to get feedback. And it's totally okay to do a few things, like to set that boundary around what exactly you're going to do for free, how many you're going to do.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. I think people try to be like charge from the start, but I think that can sometimes almost put you in a more stressful, anxious place.
Yeah, if you're not ready for that and that terrifies you, nuh-uh. Especially if you have this experience catch-22, you've got to get out of that by working for free in a strategic way. Strategic beta. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you guys have any more questions, or for those of you who are watching the replay, feel free to drop them in.
Yeah.
I'll be checking back. I'll tag in Courtney if there's anything that she needs to answer. So don't feel like you can't, drop it in later. If something comes up, and pop it in the group. We're here to support you throughout the month. So thank you so much, Courtney, for being here. Once again, I really recommend you grab her free masterclass. And the link is in the description.
Yeah, that was like, if you're launching anything and you want some copy like that, like I poured so much work into like this masterclass is going to give you some seriously awesome foundations. So like take it up. It's free.
I grab it myself.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I promise. And it's just information I really want people to know. And I feel like is missing. So yeah, I hope you guys will take me up on that.
Yeah. And Courtney, where should they follow you on Instagram? Because they know you're really good about showing up, being visible on Instagram.
I love Instagram. Yes. I love it's like my favorite relationship building place. So, and I also have a Facebook group, and you can, the Instagram, you can link there and like find all the rest of the stuff. I got YouTube videos on all these topics. So my Instagram is at Courtney Chaal. So it's just my name.
Okay, perfect.
Just make sure you spell it right.
Chaal.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for attending today, and I will see you guys in the group later.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.